Everyone on the call?
Ms. Fisher.
I believe so.
I think so, yes.
Good evening. It is 5:30 and we are ready to begin our work session. Therefore, this work session of the Germantown Municipal School Board is now in session. Welcome, and we will begin with the first item on our agenda, which is the revision of policy after second reading. Mr. Manuel.
Ms. Carter, we're still on hold for president.
I apologize. Can you see the presentation, sir? I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Mr. Manuel, we're not able to hear you.
We're waiting for a presentation. Can everybody else see it? Yes, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Okay, we're ready to begin. So as you're aware, we, at our last board meeting, approved policy 5.305, which is the FMLA policy. So all this is the second reading of that policy on tonight's agenda. I do want to bring to the board's attention that on page 5 of this document, in line 12, it's not substantial. We are making a grammatical change there. We're changing the word "and" to "as" just to mirror the federal guidance there, but it does not change the meaning of the sentence. But I did want the board to be aware that we are changing the grammar in that policy. That was item number 1.
Thank you, Mr. Manuel. Sorry, I clicked over too quickly to my agenda, and I couldn't unmute myself. Ms. Fisher, do you have any questions?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Ms. Landers?
No, thank you.
Ms. Griffith?
No, thank you.
Ms. Oaf?
No questions, thank you.
We move to item 2 on the work session agenda, miscellaneous fiscal year 2019-20 budget amendment number 22. Mr. Manuel?
Ms. Huffman will be presenting this for us.
Yes, so this is actually an IDEA technology grant. If you see the instructional supplies and materials are for a teletherapy platform, and then the $1,000 is for any training that platform may cost in order for our therapists to utilize effectively. Any questions?
Ms. Fisher, any questions?
No, I don't have any. Thank you.
Ms. Landers?
None, thank you.
Ms. Griffith?
No questions. I just wanted to comment how I have learned so much about the ability to offer these services in this way, and this is phenomenal. And I'm so glad that this has worked out. And thank you, Ms. Huffman.
And Ms. Oaf?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to Ms. Huffman. Item number 3 is GMSD fiscal year 2020-2021 general fund budget after second reading, final reading. Mr. Manuel.
There are no changes at this time. This is the budget that we approved at our last board meeting. And so we have a final reading tonight. It'll be on our business meeting.
Questions, Ms. Fisher?
No questions. Thank you.
Ms. Landers?
None, thank you.
Ms. Griffith?
No, thank you. Previously asked and answered.
Thank you. And Ms. Oaf?
No questions, thanks.
Thank you. The next item is GMSD fiscal year 2020-21 federal capital cafeteria health insurance and OPEB budgets after first reading. Mr. Manuel.
Ms. Price and each of the cabinet members will cover each of the sections of this document. Know that these are our federal and other budgets that must be approved by the board and go through 2 readings. So those are on the agenda for tonight. Ms. Price.
Good evening, GMSD board members. GMSD receives federal dollars to support specific student groups and programs within our district. These funds are driven by our number of economically disadvantaged students, our English language learners, our students with disabilities, and for our career and technical education programs. The district held a task force meeting that included district office, school personnel, and community members when we made this plan. The plan is then submitted to the state, and several revisions occurred, driven by state recommendations to our explanations, goals, and the budget items. All federal dollars are used to supplement student programs, other resources, technology, and teacher professional development. So our first one is the Carl Perkins Basic Federal Program. Carl Perkins provides funding for secondary career and technical education programs. This also does include middle school in that secondary. The funding is used for secondary and adult career and technical programs, technology program improvements, technology preparation, and career enhancements. The second one is the Consolidated Administration. And in this one, funds are utilized to administer Elementary and Secondary Education Act programs, which provide services for children, teachers, principals, other instructional staff, and parents. These resources are also used to ensure compliance with all applicable statutes, regulations, and procedures. Programs included are Title I, Part A, Title II, Part A, and Title III, Part A. With Title I, Part A, it's for improving academic achievement. It provides resources to help ensure that all children have a fair, equal, and significant opportunity to obtain a high-quality education and reach at a minimum proficiency on challenging state academic standards and state academic assessments. The major focus of this funding is school improvement, assessment, and accountability. For Title IIA, this is for training and recruiting. It's to help increase the academic achievement of all students by helping schools and districts improve teacher and principal quality and ensure that all teachers are highly qualified. These funds are utilized to provide professional development activities for all of our staff. For Title III, this is for our English language acquisition or English language learners. It provides special funds to develop classes, tutoring, training, programs, and other supplemental resources for our ELL students. And finally, we have Title IV, which is student support and academic enrichment. And it's intended to improve students' academic achievement by increasing the capacity of state educational agencies, local educational agencies, and local communities to provide all students with access to a well-rounded education, improve school conditions for student learning, and improve the use of technology in order to improve the digital literacy of all students.
Okay. So IDEA is also a piece of the federal funds pie. And so just to share with you what that is, IDEA Part B is for students ranging in ages of 3 through 21 who are eligible for special education services. So IDEA stands for the Individuals with Disabilities in Education Act. So that Part B is specific to ages 3 to 21. But this budget provides services such as specialized instruction and programs, interpretation services, and behavior interventions. The next program is our preschool program. This is not a large amount of money, and it just provides supplemental services such as contracts with private agencies, some equipment, and some professional development for our preschool teachers. So this money is only for students with disabilities ranging in ages from 3 to 5. The next one, we talked about this a little bit this morning, is the special personnel development grant, the SPDIG grant, and this will assist students with disabilities and general ed students in their ability to all access Tier 1 instruction. So that's that $20,000 we referred to this morning.
And that concludes the federal funds for those programs I mentioned at the beginning.
Mr. Jones, if you would present school nutrition.
Sure. With school nutrition, we're reporting the various revenues for the school nutrition program, as well as related expenditures, the majority of which is for contracted services. This budget does fall in line with the RFP submitted by Southwest Food Service Excellence.
The next budget is the capital improvement budget and our other funds. The only thing that we have included at this point is $500,000 from the city of Germantown. They have agreed to fund the secure entrance at Dogwood Elementary School up to $500,000, and that portion of the bid came in at $569,000. So we will pay the difference. We do not have projections from the Shelby County Commission at this point, so that is why you see a blank there. Once we do get those projections, we will come back to the board with a budget amendment to add our projected revenue in the capital other funds budget from the Shelby County Commission.
So just to highlight a few of our revenue sources for the health insurance fund, we have 456 employees who utilize our health insurance, and we collect medical premium payments from these folks in addition to GMSD's contributions during 20 pay periods out of the year. And this attributes to around $5 million in revenue. In addition, we anticipate to continue to see robust quarterly pharmacy rebates through Welldine, which is our prescription drug administrator. This year, we've been averaging around $50,000 in rebates each quarter. And then finally, we've allocated an increase of around $107,000 of our reserves from FY 2020 to FY 21 to cover any additional expenses associated with our health claims and administrative expenses for the new year. On the expenditure side, we budgeted amounts to cover potential increases with our medical and pharmacy claims, as well as administrative expenses. Our administrative expenses include our benefits consulting fees from Employee Security Planning, or we all know them as ESP, our third-party fees from Health Cost Solutions, Welldine, and our Coladoc teletherapy. And in addition, we are anticipating our stop-loss premium rates will significantly increase in FY21 due to the number of catastrophic claims we've had during the 1920 school year. 7 participating members did reach the stop-loss threshold of incurring over $115,000 in medical claims this year. So this brings us to a total expenditures budgeted amount of $5,690,000.
And our last fund in the other funds budget is the OPEB Trust Fund. The total budgeted for expenditures is $733,000. The district and retirees participating in the health insurance plan made contributions to the OPEB Trust during the year. Contributions cover actual retiree medical and pharmacy claims, retiree stipends to help cover premiums, certain health and life insurance premiums, custodial and investment management fees, as well as actuarial cost. And that concludes our presentation of the first reading of the other funds budget.
Thank you all. We will go to questions now. Ms. Fisher, do you have any questions?
Just a couple questions. Under nutrition, it shows that the fees for services have gone up $20,000. Is that going to be discussed when we discuss the food service?
Mr. Jones?
I'm sorry. Yes, that is included in the RFP, and that is their projected fees for next year.
And so you'll discuss it further why it's costing $20,000 more when we discuss the food service?
Yeah, it should be driven based upon the number of meals served, which are increasing from FY20 to FY21.
Okay. And then also there was $100,000 in there is that just for an extra cushion?
Yes, we've had that historically in case there is a need for it. The past couple of years, we have not had to use operating transfers from the school operating fund, but with potential interruptions next year, we left that amount in there.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions I had.
Ms. Landers, do you have any questions?
They've been asked and answered. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Griffith?
Hey there. May I go back to Mr. Cathy's slide, please? Thank you so much. Okay, the capital improvement, the $500,000 for the Dogwood secured entrance. Do we have any idea what the timetable is of receipt of those funds?
So normally what happens is once the work is completed and we've received a pay application from the general contractor, we submit that to the city of Germantown and they reimburse us. The only thing that may be tricky about the timing on this one is with them passing the continuation budget. I know that they have this budgeted in next fiscal year, so there may be a timing differential there when we actually do receive those funds due to them adopting a continuation budget.
Understand, and that helps with where I was going with that. And then just looking back, like we said, on the county commission, that jury's still out. Okay, that helps. Thank you so much for clarification.
Thank you. Ms. Oaf?
Sorry, I had a time finding my mute button. I don't think I have any questions at this time. I think all the questions I have actually been asked and answered. So we're good. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is the selection of the food service management company for 2021 school year. Mr. Manuel.
Yes, Ms. Saunders, if you can proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Manuel. As you know, the contract with Aramark as our school food service management company ends on June 30th. The USDA offered a one-year extension, but the Tennessee Office of School Nutrition declined that waiver, and we had no choice but to issue a request for proposal for a new contract. And we wanted to share with you the process that we followed to make this recommendation for Southwest Food Service Excellence tonight. First, GMSD Purchasing worked very closely with oversight and guidance from the Tennessee Office of School Nutrition. We began the process of drafting the proposal in February of 2020. The Tennessee Office of School Nutrition offered a checklist of items important to this process. The final draft of the proposal was approved by the Tennessee Office of School Nutrition on March the 23rd, and we published it the same day. We published the proposal on the GMSD website for bid and RFP opportunities, and we also advertised in the Daily Memphian. Additionally, we solicited 6 major corporations in the food service industry. They were Aramark, Sodexo, Southwest Food Service Excellence, Able Management, the Nutrition Group, and Tayer Incorporated. We also solicited additional participation through our vendor app, which is called Vendor Registry, where we published the bid and invited any companies interested in the process to offer a proposal. The RFP was advertised until May the 7th, 2020, which was a total of 46 days. We received 2 responses to the proposal, one from Aramark and one from Southwest Food Service Excellence. The scorecard before you, I believe you do have that scorecard, reflects the areas that were evaluated for each proposal. Those areas were experience, reliability, expertise of personnel, operational plan, quality, and cost. The scorecard shows the major weights and the minor weights assigned to each category. We organized an evaluation committee of 5 team members, which consisted of a school principal, the coordinator of school health, the chief financial officer, the purchasing analyst, and the school food service liaison. The committee studied each proposal and reviewed a presentation by each vendor. After this process, each member scored the evaluation sheet, and the decision was unanimous in favor of school food service excellence. The second attachment shows the totals of those evaluations, the evaluation summary, where you can see the total scores for each participant. The final contract for the selected vendor must be approved by the Tennessee Office of School Nutrition. After that approval, the contract between GMSD and the selected proposal will be executed by the school board chair and the superintendent. Thank you for your time. And I defer to Kevin, Mr. Jones, on the pricing.
And we wanted to share with you a comparative analysis of the pricing between Aramark and SFE. Again, this is only a portion of the RFP scoring, 21 points out of 100. But you can see with Aramark compared to SFE in all categories, SFE's quotes and dollar amounts were basically better than Aramark. And now we're going to turn it over to SFE. They would like to do a presentation, maybe about 15 minutes. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Scott Hood, who's been one of our main contacts during this process.
Hey, good evening, Germantown. I hope you guys are all doing well. I'm going to hit present here. I'm assuming that means I'll be able to. Is the presentation up on the screen there?
No, sir. We see your screen.
Yeah.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Talk them through it, Ryder.
Okay, so at the very bottom, you need to stop presenting, and then you'll need to present the window of your choosing and not your screen. So if you hit present now, select window, and then you'll have a menu bar that will come up, and it will give you an option of the different things that might be open on your desktop. You will want to select the one that reflects your presentation. And we are still seeing just your version of you watching this meeting.
Well, that's not very good. Hit the window there.
You also might be able to pick tab, and then it'll give you an option to select that tab that I saw where it said Germantown Municipal Schools.
Yes, if you'll repeat your process, Mr. Hood, one more time, we can talk through how to get it presenting. So click on the.
Okay, so we've got 2 screens. On my left screen, I've got the presentation. I'm hitting a window where that presentation is. There.
Perfect. There you are.
Full screen?
You're
Yes.
ready to go.
Woo, all right. Well, thank you guys very much for allowing us to present today. It's truly an honor to be able to talk to you guys and share our story. I brought the big guns out with me today, so I don't know if you guys have any questions or anything. I got the folks to answer it. On the call with me, I've got our CEO, Chef, our Vice President of Solutions, Chris Odom, and our Vice President of Business Development, Mike Reese. We submitted a couple different budgets, and the budget that we've discussed so far, the one that's on the screen. What we're going to bring to you we do, and Monty's really going to talk about how we put food at the top of our focus. We're going to salad bars each and every single campus bar so that everybody can get all the fruits and vegetables they want. And then we're going to drive our menus from student feedback. We provide menus based on your students. We don't do regional menus or any stock menus or anything like that. The budget that you guys have chosen is going to be a $261,000 guarantee, $3,000 investment by us, which includes all new signage. It includes digital signage and digital marketing for digital signage and a whole digital program for your middle and high school. Also includes an investment of people, and we're going to talk a little bit more about people. Where we're actually going to bring a lot of people over to help and make sure you guys really set the standard for the state of Tennessee. And I'm going to talk about, and we put in our proposal as far as a barbecue team with smokers, a dedicated district chef, and an investment towards an enhanced demonstration cooking. That's really what's hot right now with kids, and into a future enhancement. So, and who we are.
Hey, Scott, we may want to come back and revisit that last slide at the end. I was having a little hard time hearing you. I don't know if everybody else had a hard time hearing you.
It may help if all of you would turn your videos off. It'll help with the sound feed. So if you'll go to video off and keep your sound on, that may help.
Okay, were you guys okay? Do I need to repeat that?
We'll come back to that, Scott.
Yeah, we'll circle back, Scott. Thank you. So thanks, Scott, for that summary. I appreciate it. So I wanted to take a couple brief seconds to just kind of give the board an idea of who SFE is, kind of what we're about, and how we were really excited about being your partner to deliver you the food service program that you envision. So first and foremost is child nutrition. K-12 is all we do. We do not serve other markets such as colleges, stadiums, prisons, and we don't do other services such as custodial maintenance or grounds. So what that means is every day our entire company wakes up thinking about how do we put the best food on your student's plate. I know we had some audio problems with Scott. You may not have heard, but our CEO, Monty, who will present here in a second, is actually a chef. You know, what a crazy idea that is, that our food service company is focused only on food and led by a chef. Scott, let's jump to the next slide. There's three basic things that you'll hear in our brief presentation tonight is, you know, our approach. First and foremost, it's all about the food. 75% of what we make is from scratch. Secondly, we have 3,000 menu choices. But more important than that, we solicit input through tastings and our apps and, you know, even simple written surveys from your students asking their opinion on what they like and what they would like to eat. And then most importantly is how do we support that? Well, we have the best operators in the nation. We support our managers like no other. And then we really believe in involving community support so that your parents and your taxpayers really understand the value and the partnership that we're bringing to Germantown. Next slide, Scott. And just a quick synopsis, SFE has been in business 16 years. We've grown to over 165 school districts, counting the new partners we're adding this year. We serve over 104 million meals a year. And something else that Chris will touch on in a minute is 100% audit compliance. Out of all of our annual reviews, we have never had a fiscal finding that cost a partner district money. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chris, and he's going to cover some of the finances and some of the operational items. Chris?
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Good evening, folks. I certainly do appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today, and appreciate the process that the group there at Germantown has gone through to select a provider. I think it's obviously a very, very important and important need for the students, and I'm glad that you have taken it as seriously as you have. Scott went away. All righty. Well, I don't know where the presentation went.
Chris, let me try to pull it up. Bear with me a second.
Folks, as you can tell, we are a team of chefs, not IT professionals.
It is all a learning process.
Are you able to see that?
Negative.
All right.
There we go.
All right.
Back up.
Are we on the presentation?
Yes, you're good to go.
Perfect. So, as I was saying before I cut out, I'm going to try to multitask here and work my slides as well. So my focus in the operations team is to provide two main things. I want to make sure that I provide absolutely every possible resource to your frontline staff, the men and women in your school cafeterias that have been with you forever. We're the company from out of town, if you will. We want to make sure that we take care of those folks that are there each and every day. They're members in your community. They so strongly desire to just take care of their students. And in order for us to do that, we have to provide them with the best possible resources. We don't bring in a truckload of people and expect us to turn on the SFE program overnight. We like to come in, teach, train, retain, and take care of your staff members, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that are boots on the ground for you. Second part of what we do here at SFE is to ensure that we deliver on our promises. And the slide here on the screen is a quick sample. Many others like it, of an Aramark to SFE transition and what that looks like from a financial point of view. Each and every single time we increase participation by taking over from a partner such as Aramark. Each and every single time we take over and improve on program surpluses. It's absolutely imperative that we do these things for us to continue to grow and sell our services across the country, and you'll hear it resonating across many of our partners on delivering on our promises and doing exactly what they say. Next, I wanted to talk to you briefly about partners and actually hearing exactly what they have to say. I'm not going to chance trying to play this video because judging by our latest technical gaffes, I would prefer not to play this and slow your board meeting and evening up any longer from your families. But I encourage the district to seek a copy of this video. They certainly have it on file that they can provide to each and every one of y'all. And this is Dr. Rick Garcia in Plainview, Texas, taking over from a longtime Aramark account, declining enrollment, yet we still were able to increase participation on a daily basis. I think what we do on the front lines that Monty will talk about here shortly, great culinary experiences for your student, absolutely drives program participation and program satisfaction that both your principals and your parents and of course you, the school board, can be very excited about talking about in the community. Oh, that was working. Let's see if it'll play. Oh, never mind. Seamless employee transitions. Again, folks, I can't talk about it enough. We absolutely are excited about partnering with your team and getting to know them well. We take a ton of time with them before the school year starts to ensure that everybody is comfortable in their roles, what they're doing, the job expectations, but also providing them with those resources, whether it be kitchen equipment they never have had before, or simple training on how to use a knife properly, and of course personal protective equipment given our current circumstances with COVID-19. And then finally, what we are very excited to do on top of annual merit increases is performance-based bonuses provided not just to your food service director, but all the way down to the very frontline levels of your school kitchen team members. Administrator review, folks. It's obviously, Mike touched on it earlier. We've never had a fiscal finding in any one of our school district partner audits, administrative reviews over the last 15 years, and we certainly don't intend to start now. Our team of QA and compliance experts, of course, will take care of you step by step, all the way, lead you through the process with both state audits and USDA procurement audits through menu design and compliance to ensure that we can achieve those goals together. Because I'm sure that no one, audits are just as important in food service as they are on the finance side of things. We rest assured you will 100% be compliant and state and federal audit ready at all times. Monty?
Hey, folks. Again, I echo everybody's sentiments here. Thank you so much for allowing us to come in and talk to you a little bit about what we do and the company we are so very proud of today, SFE. With that, we believe that being selected is not just coming in and being a vendor to put food on your kids' plates. It's more than that. We need to be your partner. We need to understand and be a part of your community. And with that goes a long way toward the things that we believe in and providing more than just that item on the plate. It's educating kids through farmers markets, and that produce doesn't just come from a grocery store. It comes from hardworking men and women and families all across this nation growing great produce for us. Health fairs, back to school events, nutrition classes, and cooking classes that I'm so very proud of, and teaching kids life skills of how to cook and what nutrition actually does to their body. We believe in all those things. Pushing forward, we have a ton of registered dietitians, and I will say this, as all the management companies probably do. I just think we take our devotion to nutrition and education around this much, much further than, say, many of our competitors. We want to make sure that we empower all of our students, all of our parents, teachers, and certainly the nurses, that they have our menus, the nutritional information at the touch of their fingers, and even using our mobile app technology to advance, and I will touch on here in a little bit, our innovation platform.
Hey, Chris, sorry to interrupt. Mr. Hood, could you turn off your microphone? What about your video?
All right, are you ready?
Thank you.
All right. From that point, hey, finally, we get to what it's all about. It's about great food. And we believe in culinary. We start and end what we are looking at and how we approach K-12 child nutrition from a culinary perspective. I am certainly biased, and I am a chef by trade. And so we just know that the way that school nutrition has been approached for the last decade has been all about buying food in that's frozen, throwing it on a sheet tray, heating it up, and calling that cooking. Well, folks, most of y'all on this call today, you didn't grow up with that. You had ladies and gentlemen in the kitchens cooking from scratch, making food with love and heart, and truly building the integrity of that product so that our kids would come back and eat more often with us. It's the same approach we take today. We make sure that we cook more from scratch because we control what goes into it. And I am a firm believer that without all of the preservatives and everything else, that we make food to be much better than it is if we just buy it from a manufacturer. Chris, go ahead. This is a small sampling of the many, many concepts that we have, that we ask students exactly what they like, what they don't like. We survey students all the time, take their feedback, and instead of just having a cycle menu that rotates over and over throughout the year, we actually custom build a monthly menu according to what your kids tell us they want. And I am a firm believer that if I ask everybody on this call what you want for lunch, and then I actually serve it, you're going to be more prone to come down and participate with us. Well, we go that extra mile, and we make sure that is our philosophy, even in the K-12 setting, and that's with all grade groups. This is a small, just a quick look at some of the grade-specific feedback cards that we go out and solicit, and it's on our taste testing. We make up samples of new concepts that we're looking to roll out, because if we don't keep it inviting, if we don't keep it exciting for kids to want to come down and eat our food, they're going to stop coming. And then again, if you have to eat at the same restaurant for 180 days straight, if we don't create variety, if we don't have new concepts, tastings, and then listen to what your feedback is, you're not going to want to come eat with us. So we make sure that drives every bit of our operations. And then, as I touched on before, throughout our company, we are driving mobile innovation and doing mobile ordering so that we can allow kids and parents as well, parents of elementary students who maybe don't trust that their student is going to make the best choices through the lines. They have the ability to customize menus in advance. High school and middle school students have the ability to come in and custom make a panini in this case, or a number of other options. Again, putting control in that student's hand and driving participation. And that brings us to the end of a very tough, video challenging presentation, but I am happy to answer any questions that I can for anyone.
And Ms. Luter, does the board members have any questions since SFE's on this conference?
Yes, I will ask. Thank you so much to all of you, and thank you for presenting. It's exciting to hear. Ms. Fisher, do you have any questions?
I do. I'm sorry, I couldn't get my mic up. I was curious. I was curious. Where is the SFE headquarters located?
We're in Arizona, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. And also, do we have enough time to make this transition to a new company and be ready for when our new school year starts?
Ms. Fisher, that is a very valid question, and I can answer that with absolute certainty. We transition because we are growing at the rate we are. We transition and bring on more partner districts every year than any of the large competition out there. And we have transitioned districts of 10 and 12,000 students over a weekend in emergency settings. We're very skilled at this. We absolutely have a plan in place. And even before you are looking at this selection and talking to your committee, we outline what the transition will look like way in advance, so that we already planned out and scheduled and have you taken care of.
And Ms. Fisher, just to let you know, their SFE's regional rep is based in Memphis.
Thank you.
So
That
they have
was my
a
next
local
question.
presence.
If they had a local presence at all.
Oh, Ms. Fisher, that is absolutely, and just to carry on with that, Mr. Jones, we bring the resources to where our partners are. And just so you know, we have a corporate office in Arizona, but that really houses accounting and human resources. All of our other resources are out in the field with our district partners. And so we do have a presence in Tennessee, but we are already moving regional resources into the area to further support you and our other partner districts.
Thank you. And the only other thing I was going to add is on the contract on page 16, it talks about that if there's any surplus less than the projected surplus, the current year up to the reimburses for up to the amount of $76,000.
Yes.
And then actually on page 19, it says up to the amount of $75,000. So there's two different figures.
Ma'am, I apologize. I don't have that in front of me, but I can make this real easy.
Someone just might want, yeah, someone just might want to look at it.
Not a problem.
And, but no, I appreciate the district staff selecting a food service they feel will fit our district best. And that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher.
And Ms. Fisher, we have those contracts under review by legal counsel right now, so we can make that adjustment.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. Ms. Landers?
Thank you. Ms. Fisher hit on one of my questions, which was local presence of SFE. And I had some questions earlier that were answered between our two meetings. I did want to compliment SFE on a wonderful presentation. It could not have been more thorough, but it was really wonderfully laid out. And I very much appreciate their RFP and the work that went into their presentation. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Landers.
Thank you. Ms. Griffith?
Yes, thank you. I wanted to first off thank Mr. Jones, Ms. Saunders, and everyone that participated. A lot of the questions about the timetable of the RFP were addressed in their presentation. So thank you for that. It was a strange time of year, of this year, obviously during this, what happened to be this timetable and period. I was very surprised to learn that only 2 people participated or chose to participate. But I will go and reiterate what Ms. Landers just said about the FE presentation being very, very thorough. It was very helpful for me. I do have a couple of questions pertaining to part of the presentation where we talked about trying to keep some, I guess, continuity in previous staff and things like that. And it may be getting, I'm not trying to get down like a legal road or anything like that, but as far as what you described and not having familiar faces and everything like that, based on who has been in our schools with the kids, what does that look like for you all as far as like your process or what you can or can't do? And that may have to do with the other company and what they allow their people to do to consider. But as far as that goes, like what does that normally look like for you when you transition in a market?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Griffith. I'd be happy to take that question. So we, of course, start with a job fair. This is for your frontline staff, of course, not your management team. Start with a job fair there locally and onboard everybody as if they're starting fresh with a new company, obviously. But, of course, giving first choice to those current staff members there in the schools. Of course, having conversations with the school district and the principals of each building site and administration, and making sure that there's good fits, of course, all the way around, and that staffing is appropriate where needed, of course, per the terms of the RFP, and onboard those folks at with no reduction in pay, anything like that. Moving forward with your management team, you know, your food service director and of course the chef that we are excited about bringing to you. That's all mutually agreed to by the school district and SFE. We bring candidates through interview processes, and we don't rest until we have that perfect candidate that everybody's excited with, that's going to be invested in your culture there locally, not just SFE. So district has final say in hiring of every one of those staff members, and we don't take that lightly. We ensure that we put forth a number of candidates that we can all be excited about. In some instances, taking over from a former management company, there's some non-compete, non-solicitation stuff that you have to work through. I'm not confident in what that situation is currently at Germantown. If there is a good cultural fit there currently, we can certainly talk through those things with Mr. Jones and the rest of the team.
And Ms. Griffith, just to let you know, our legal counsel is working with a transition or a possible transition for supervisory staff.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. I really appreciate that. And Mr. Odom, that absolutely went over everything I was going at with that question.
Perfect.
Next, do you all partner with a specific food service distribution company, or does it depend on the market?
Ma'am, we competitively bid that distribution contract on a yearly basis. Currently, for that area, I believe this last year that was on Gordon Food Service as a broadline distributor, but we also seek to do as much local procurement as possible. And we also look at who have been good partners and service providers for the district previously to us coming on board. So we understand there's a lot more than just the ease of distribution or one vendor. We need to take into account all of the items at play.
Okay, so in this case, you said in this area, the closest person, I think, you tell me if I'm wrong, or please correct me. I'll just ask, what is the closest next school district geographically to us that you're currently servicing?
Lincoln County.
That is the one. Okay. And so Gordon Food Service out of Shepherdsville, Kentucky is handling that distribution at this time in that area.
I believe that is the warehouse, ma'am, but I don't have their mapping in front of me. They handle a lot from all the way in Georgia, all the way up through Minnesota.
Right. And Douglasville, Georgia for the Atlanta school system is really close. That's where I was going with that.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Here, currently being supplied with the current contract out of a local distributor that's 20 minutes away from all of our schools. I just was going to make sure that however you all go about that is a factor that's being considered. Or you may have a contract nationwide with somebody. That's why I asked it that way in the beginning.
Absolutely, ma'am. And we make sure, service is priority, and making sure that we get the right products for your students. That is key, and that is written into all of our distribution agreements. So we make sure service is first and foremost.
So you're not locked into any one. You look at each individual case.
No, ma'am. We're actually, again, we do this on a yearly basis, and we make sure we're driving the best value and cost for your program. But we also have to take into account the service provided to each and every district partner that we have.
Okay, so that's exactly what I wanted to know.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm so excited about all of the fresh aspects of what you all offer. And when you talk about produce in particular, back to that distribution and local sourcing, I read a lot over the weekend about your sourcing in proteins and even plant-based things and produce. So would those, depending on the market, like you said, you may find some local suppliers, but produce in general, you're run-of-the-mill everyday lettuce, tomatoes, onions, apples. Would those generally come also from your broadline supplier?
No, ma'am. That really is on a case-by-case basis. Not every warehouse out of a distribution channel has good produce, to be frank. And often we have local produce suppliers, but we also try to do local dairy, local bread, novelty, all sorts of different bids. It is not just simply a case of, for ease of our operations or execution, that we run everything through a broadline supplier. We really try to be as local as we possibly can.
I wasn't suggesting ease. I was going down the quality route that you had. I was going to ask about the bread and the other novelties and things as well. So that explains that, because
yes, ma'am.
That's really important in a community. You talk
Absolutely.
About that. That's, understanding that what's going on with our friends in Lincoln County is very different than what's going on in this suburb of Shelby County, which is different than Alamo Heights, which is different than a major metropolitan school district in Atlanta or St. Louis. So
you're absolutely right. And we take that to heart, even on the menus. And what the menus are in Lincoln County are not going to be the menus that you have. Every single one of our district partners is customized to exactly what they want. That's our philosophy. It's just the way we've done it from day one.
Well, I love that you take the kids first and foremost and go with that, and the freshness of the ingredients. I'm so excited to learn more about the app and the technology as part of this, because my kids buy school lunch. I'm a lifelong. I tell people the story all the time. I mean, I went to one of our schools, and they knew me by name, and they knew that was back then scratch cooking, and they knew my favorite things, and I got a little extra probably on my tray when it was those days, you know. So I see you doing a lot of those things that get back to basics, and the fact that you're K-12 only, I think that's a big benefit as well. But I just had specific questions about kind of your partners and who you like to use as far as that goes.
Absolutely. All excellent questions. And I'm happy to elaborate on those as much as you'd like, and can certainly contact me off this if need be.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Oaf, do you have any questions?
I think most of my questions have been addressed through the presentation and the information we were provided ahead of time. I just want to express how impressed I am with your presentation and the materials that you provided. And I think the app that's proposed for either parents of younger children to make some selections or for our high schoolers to pre-order is exciting, and I think that's something that especially our high schoolers will probably get very excited about. I'll take it back. I have one question about that. Is there a way you have of rolling out information for that, so that, you know, every time we have a change, we have to, of course, re-educate your customer base, and so your customer base are the kids and these parents. So is there materials that are there materials that you provide to educate parents and kids about things coming and how to use that app, the ordering app?
Absolutely. And this one is certainly near and dear to my heart. The app does a great many things, and we have had a long time software partner in this. So I feel we have progressed this probably beyond anything else being done in the K-12 space. We wanted to find a way for parents who have elementary kids that they could either customize their meals so that they feel more confident about what they're getting, or, you know, help them because kids get up in line and, you know, you see a lot of selections. Sometimes it's a little overwhelming. And so we want to help those kids get through, but we also want to make sure they're getting exactly what mom and dad want them to have, and that they can trust in us that they're going to get a great quality meal without necessarily having to brown bag it. For the middle school students, those kids, we always are looking to progress our grade groups into that next group. And just as we look at high school and we're trying to get those kids ready to go off to college, and we create a food court and really a different dining atmosphere, we look to do that with the middle school kids as well. So, you know, empowering both middle and high school, that they have some customization, that they can be in control of what they're selecting in advance and get it the way they like. We just believe that's the right thing to do, but it's what our kids are experiencing out in the world. You know, all these places, Starbucks and Chick-fil-A and, you know, numerous pizza places, they all have apps where you can have orders made, have it customized, and even have it delivered to a hotspot, if you will. We've had that ability with our app where we can select individual serving sites around a campus, if, you know, granted, if it's allowable, but where we can deliver to certain spots. And let's face it, you know, in our high school, I have 2 high school age students, one going into senior and one going into sophomore year. And it's just not always cool to walk down to the high school cafeteria. And so if I can find where those kids are gravitating to and make it where, you know, the food comes down to them, and we make sure they're fueled for success throughout the day rather than just skipping eating altogether, or if we make it where they put in an order and suddenly, instead of, you know, this 30-minute time period that they have to eat lunch, and they're more concerned about social time, if they can get that expedited line, that express line to get their meal, it gives them that freedom. And then we take the app even further, where from an administrative perspective, it's at your fingertips for caterings. It pains me when we're culinary, we are all about food, and I see Jimmy John's walking through the front door of an administration building, or for your board meetings to cater. And I love having our chef team show you samples of what we're sampling kids on, what the concepts are, what the new food is that's coming out, to give you a taste so we can truly immerse you in what's happening in the schools. And then even from athletics and clubs throughout. We have our kids, and I know my kids. I have one that's a runner, and he gets there at 6 a.m. and then he has after school clubs, and he doesn't get done until about 7 p.m. at night. Well, that's a long time to try to fuel a student off of potentially one, a la carte choice or some, Cliff Bar that they packed in their bag. We have to do a better job. And that's what really empowering this app and empowering our students, and then all the other pieces that go into it. We know it's the right thing to do. It's outside of the K-12 box, and we are happy to lead that charge across the country.
We are up against time, Mr. Staggs, but I want to thank you and your team. Ms. Luder, I don't know if y'all had any more questions or if you were good.
I am good. I did want to make sure that we don't have any additional agenda items that have come up.
We do not. The only thing that we will have to do is all of those federal budgets that we have are our consolidated funding applications. So you and I will have to complete a form for the state once we have approved those.
Okay, not a problem. Our board business meeting is scheduled for 6:30. It is now 6:31. I'm going to suggest that we meet back at 6:36 and take a 5-minute break.
Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate you being with us. Have you started the recording?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. This board business meeting of the GMSD School Board is now in order, and I'm going to invite you to take a moment of silence. Thank you. Please join me in our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation,
under
under God,
indivisible, with
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We move to the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
I second.
It has been moved by Ms. Landers and seconded by Ms. Griffith. Are there any questions, Ms. Fisher?
No, I have no questions. Thank you.
Ms. Landers?
No questions.
Ms. Griffith?
No, thank you.
Ms. Oaf?
No questions.
Ms. Subramani, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Fisher,
Yes.
Ms. Landers,
Yes.
Ms. Griffith,
Yeah.
Ms. Oaf,
Yes.
Chairman Luter.
Yes.
Thank you.
We move to recognition and awards. Mr. Manuel?
There are not recognitions and awards because of our virtual meeting, so we'll move on to the reports.
Very good, thank you. Our first report is the TLN update from Ms. Griffith.
I am going to say that the congratulations for pulling off the most amazing graduation last week for the Houston High graduating class of 2020 is absolutely everybody deserves an award. Everybody that was there, everybody that did anything and participated, all deserve an award. A lot of exciting stuff today. Even had to go back and adjust my TLN report mid-afternoon. Breaking news. The 111th General Assembly reconvened on June 1st, 2020. There was some committee work done the week prior, and there seems to be a different approach among the two houses. The Senate's intent is to hear only and consider time-sensitive, budget-related, or COVID-19 specific legislation, whereas the House is still proceeding with consideration of several other bills. Breaking news, ladies and gentlemen, following the State Attorney General's request for the Tennessee State Supreme Court to intervene in the voucher lawsuit appeal, the State High Court has announced today, this afternoon, that they will not hear the appeal regarding the expedited implementation of the education savings accounts. The decision was based primarily on procedure and timeline. Something else that we have been monitoring very closely, the Governor's Literacy Bill, House Bill 2229, Senate Bill 2160. This significantly amended bill, Amendment 17833, was passed by the House Education Committee recently and placed on Government Operations Committee calendar. Chairman White even made a point to ask if there any changes were to be made after it left their committee that he would seek their support, bringing it back to them since they had worked so hard to make the changes to keep the intentions of the original bill intact. Much of the debate was over how such a curriculum implementation, and there goes my document, pardon me, would be funded during such financially uncertain times. There was even mention of utilizing some federal CARES Act funding, which was greeted with hesitation by most committee members. While the Senate Education Committee took a stand and longtime Chairman Gresham tabled the proposal, citing financial reasons as well. We will likely see that again next year, but at this time, we do not expect anything to move forward. School board recall election, something that affects all 5 of us that sit here and serve. Senate Bill 2546, House Bill 2139, placed this week on House Finance Ways and Means Subcommittee for next week. The original bill from last year was specific only to Madison County, and the new version will expand it to all counties across the state. The primary speaking points against it were based on no specific criteria being established to initiate a recall, which could set a bad precedent regarding elected official recalls overall. Other bills of interest, Senate Bill 2269 and House Bill 2477, something that came up earlier this year for us, and as we adopted our family life curriculum, requires family life curriculum adopted by the State Board of Education and LEAs to include information on the prevention of dating violence. That was something that actually came up in our discussion, as I recall. Placed on House Calendar and Rules Committee, it was today, and I have not checked the status since I sent this to Ms. Supermani when our meeting began. It was a late afternoon committee meeting. Senate Bill 1893, House Bill 2163, requires each high school to designate an apprenticeship training program contact. Also requires the department to compile and publish a list of the apprenticeship training program contacts available in an area. That was one of our representatives actually sponsored that bill, Representative Dwayne Thompson. Outcome of bills previously on watch. A couple of the ones that we mentioned last month have both been taken off a notice, and that was the mandatory K-3 summer school and the transferring of students. So at this time, we don't expect anything to move on those. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Griffith. The chairman's report is very short. The school staff has been busy closing out the school year, and really one of the culminating events of that was the graduation, which was exciting and wonderful and better certainly than I ever dreamed it could be. And as we heard from many students and parents, better than anybody could dream it could be. And I've heard more than one person say, wow, could we do that every year? It was that good. So thank you to everyone who participated and who planned and worked through a million logistics happen, but also who came and, like me, smiled so long that even underneath my mask, my cheeks hurt. At the same time, I know that we are preparing for school year, and there are, if you are listening to the meeting tonight, last month, the superintendent's report was about the different possible ways that school will be back in session in the fall. And our staff continues to look at those and consider those and be ready. They're readying us all for any possible configuration. Also, this morning, we were briefed on the strategic plan with the draft objectives because 2020 isn't the end. And so even though we are really looking hard at what fall of 2020 looks like, we're still looking forward to what 2025 will look like as we continue to inspire personal excellence and really strive to inspire every student and staff member to be their personal best. And so with that, I end the chairman's report. Mr. Manuel.
Yes, so I'll not spend a lot of time on my superintendent's report because the board did spend so much time this morning during work session really doing a recap of the highlights of this year by each department. So individuals, stakeholders can go view that video. It is online from each of our department heads. Also, we reviewed my rubric for evaluation and went through all the details and all the highlights once again of the district this year. I think it has been an incredible, groundbreaking year for Germantown schools. And then last but not least, we did our first touch for the strategic plan. We will have follow-up sessions. We will have town hall meetings to share out components and review components of the strategic plan. That concludes my superintendent's report.
Sorry, I could not get my mic to unmute. Thank you, Mr. Manuel. We move to the consent agenda. And the agenda this evening includes the approval of the minutes, revision HR policy 5.305, family and medical leave, military caregiver leave on the second reading, miscellaneous fiscal year 2019-20 budget amendment number 22. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
The motion was made by Ms. Oath and seconded by Ms. Fisher. Are there any questions?
Landers.
I'm sorry, sounded like Ms. Fisher. Are there any questions, Ms. Fisher?
No questions, thank you.
Ms. Landers?
No questions, thank you.
Ms. Griffith?
No questions, thank you.
Ms. Landers? Sorry, Ms. Oak.
That's okay. No questions, thank you.
We move to board action items. The first board action item is the GMSD fiscal year 2020-2021 general fund budget after second reading and the final reading.
Excuse me, Ms. Luter, sorry to interrupt. We need to have a roll call for consent.
I apologize. I asked if there were questions. I didn't ask for you to have everyone vote. Ms. Subramani, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Ms. Landers?
Yes.
Ms. Griffith?
Yes.
Ms. Oaf?
Yes.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Chairman Luter?
Yes.
Thank you.
Now we move to board action items and to the approval of the general fund budget. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the GMSD FY 2020-2021 general fund budget after second and final reading.
Second.
The motion was made by Ms. Fisher and seconded by, I believe, Ms. Landers.
Correct.
Is there discussion? Ms. Fisher?
No discussion, thank you.
Ms. Landers?
No questions, thank you.
Ms. Griffith?
No question. Want to
Ms. Oath?
for their effort during this time as well.
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. We do want to thank everyone on many fronts. As we spent 3 hours in a meeting this morning, it is very difficult to do collaborative work over Zoom and GoToMeeting and Google Hangouts. And so thank you to all of you who have worked really hard to do collaborative work, but also to bring together a general fund budget that had sacrifices made as well as things to celebrate. So thank you all. Ms. Subramani, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Ms. Griffith?
Yes.
Ms. Griffith?
Yes.
Ms. Oaf?
Yes.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Ms. Landers?
Yes.
Chairman Luter?
Yes.
Thank you.
The next item is the GMSD fiscal year 2020-2021 federal capital, cafeteria, health insurance, and OPEB budgets after the first reading. Mr. Manuel?
It has Ms. Price. Ms. Price, you want to give the overview of just the funds again that are listed?
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone, once again. So for federal funding, GMSD receives our federal dollars to support specific student groups and programs within our district. These funds are driven by our number of economically disadvantaged English language learners and students with disabilities. And we receive money for our career and technical education programs. The district held a task force meeting that included district office, school personnel, and community members in order to produce this plan. The plan is then submitted to the state for approval. After several revisions with state recommendations for the plan itself, our explanations, and our budget items, it was approved. All federal dollars are used to supplement student programs, other resources, technology, and teacher professional development. Mr. Manuel?
No, that was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion.
I move to approve the GMSD FY 2019, should that be 2021, Federal Capital Cafeteria, Health, Insurance, and OPEB budgets after first reading.
Second.
Yes, it should read fiscal year 2020, 2021. The motion was made by Ms. Landers and seconded by Ms. Oath. Is there discussion? Ms. Fisher?
No questions. Thank you.
Ms. Landers?
No questions. Thank you.
Ms. Griffith?
Thank you for the detailed presentation.
And Ms. Oath?
No questions. Thank you.
Ms. Subramani, would you please call the roll?
Yes, and I just want to let you know, I changed the 1920 to 2021.
Thank you.
Sure. Ms. Oath?
Yes.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Ms. Landers?
Yes.
Ms. Griffith?
Yes.
Chairman Luter?
Yes.
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda is item 8C, the selection of food service company for 2021 school year. Mr.
Jones, if you would.
Okay, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the name.
Yes, go ahead.
We went through an extensive RFP process the past few months to select a food service management company. Our recommendation to the board to select or contract with Southwest Food Service Excellence, subject to the approval of the terms and conditions of the contract for the 2020-21 school year.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Does that conclude the report?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Are there, the chair would entertain.
I move to approve Southwest Food Service Excellence, SFE, as the food service management company for the 2020-21 school year, subject to the approval of the terms and conditions of the contract by the executive committee.
Is there a second?
Second.
The motion was made by Ms. Oath, and I believe it was seconded by Ms. Fisher and by Ms. Landers. Is there discussion?
Is it Ms. Landers or Ms. Fisher?
Go ahead. It was both of us, but put Ms. Landers.
Okay, thank you.
Is there discussion, Ms. Fisher?
All my questions were answered in the work session. I just appreciate the district staff selecting the food service that they feel fits our district best, and I'm looking forward to them serving our district in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Landers?
All my questions have been answered, and I look forward to our working with SFE. Thank you.
Ms. Griffith?
No questions. Thanks to the folks, as I mentioned earlier in the work session, who did a wonderful job explaining the RFP process that they went through and the thorough presentation by the provider.
Thank you. And Ms. Oath?
I have no questions, just I also want to express my thanks to the district staff who went through the process and Mr. Prokosky of selecting the food service vendor and through the RFP process. I also want to thank the representatives from SFE who joined us in the work session. I thought the information they provided there, as well as in their SFE or in their RFP, was impressive, and I look forward to seeing them in action in the fall.
Thank you. Ms. Subramani, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Oaf,
Yes.
Ms. Fisher,
Yes.
Ms. Landers,
Yes.
Ms. Griffith,
Yes.
Chairman Luter.
Yes.
Thank you.
I apologize. There's a dog and very concerned about something. Announce, Subramani, can you please confirm our next meeting date and time?
Our next meeting date and time is June the 23rd.
And do we have a time for that at this point?
As of now, it will be regular 5:30 work session and 6:30 board meeting. Yes.
I just hadn't seen the actual time. Okay. So
And it's a
June 23rd.
Tuesday.
Correct. Tuesday, June 23rd, 5:30 work session, 6 o'clock board meeting. Apology. With that, we stand adjourned.
Thank you.